Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hello, good evening. Nice to have you listening. Hello if you are new to the podcast. And hello if you are a new subscriber on the Instagram at Hen Hill Cut Flowers. It's really nice to see some new faces, and I hope you're enjoying the podcast. So this week has been very busy. I can't believe it's Friday tomorrow, so it's Thursday the 20th today. The seeds that we germinated last week are doing incredibly well. So both sets of zinnias are up, both the Senorita and Coral Beauty. The Crespedia are up, that's the little yellow golf balls on sticks, and the Achillea, the pearl, is also up. Now the cornflowers were already up when I spoke to you on Tuesday, so they've got their first little baby leaves out, and they're just doing really, really well. Everything's doing really well, actually. I've been busy today sowing vegetable seeds. I know this is a cut flower podcast, but if you're going to try and sneak some veg in to your cut flowers, then I would suggest or highly recommend courgettes, tomatoes, chard. I'm also doing spinach, spring onions, and cavallonero, and sweet corn. Now, I did cavallonero last year, and the squirrel ate it around about Christmas time, I think. Which, come to think of it, I haven't seen the squirrel in weeks, so I hope nothing bad's happened to him. But at the same time, I really hope he stays wherever he is, and he leaves all my new seedlings alone when they go out. I found a new home for the Victoria plum that is in the ground and planted, seems to be doing absolutely fine. Found some wild garlic in my garden, which is pretty exciting. I bought it a couple of years ago and clearly potted it up and then forgot about it, but it was labelled. And as I've been clearing out all the pots this week, I found it. And I didn't actually recognise it. And before I read the label, I could smell it between my fingers. And it smells gorgeous, as you can imagine. So that's been quite a find this week. And then up at the plot, I've been extremely busy the last couple of days. It's been really, really warm, but not all of it has been cut flower related. So I won't bore you with all of the other stuff. But what has been cut flower related has been emptying one of the compost bays of the compost and wheelbarrowing it all out and adding it to one of the long beds. Now, I haven't raked it in yet because it's been incredibly hot and I don't want it to just sort of all lie on the soil and just dry out. So I've left it in great big piles, which actually look like massive, giant molehills, which is quite amusing. Now, I built the compost bins a year ago, so I've got a photo of when I did it in March 2024. So it's pretty awesome that I've got about, I don't know, a foot depth maybe of compost out of it. Now I've got 2 more bays and I'm going to turn them into the one bay that I emptied yesterday. I don't normally mess about with my compost. I don't turn it or anything at all. I just leave it. But I really want to put this gorgeous compost down on top of the new beds, particularly the dahlia bed. So I thought, I can't keep waiting for all the rats to just dig it out for me. I'm going to have to get in there and get it out, and I might as well just turn the bays and then I can have access to it. So that's what I've been up to, and that's the updates for this week. I thought I'd take the opportunity for the rest of this episode to answer some questions and also just talk about things that have occurred to me. One of the questions I have had is, why don't I direct sow? And this is a really good question. And I have a bit of a wussy answer, I suppose, really, is that I'm a bit afraid that if I direct sow things, something's going to eat them before they get a chance to get to a decent size. And I don't know how many levels of precautions you could take to avoid all the different stages of a seed's development to stop, something going wrong with it. So I guess if you direct sow, for me, being, growing in a field, the risk is that the pigeons will turn up 5 minutes after I've gone. So you say, okay, well, net everything. Yeah, that's fine. And I have netting and it is possible, but it is quite a faff. It's quite time consuming. You have to have, hoops or proper supports in order to get the netting up. And everything has to be, not blow awayable. So if you have a gust of wind, and a lot of the netting I have is really, really lightweight. And then I think, well, okay, if we get through all of those hurdles and the birds don't come and some different birds don't come, what about the squirrels getting in? Because the squirrels will just chew through the netting. And there are just lots of things that could go wrong with that. And I also don't like netting on the ground or near the ground, really, because it's not the right material. Really, you'd have everything under plastic, and that would probably be better. I don't want to turn up and find lots of little tiny birds stuck in the netting. That would be horrific. And then assuming that things germinate and we don't have like torrential rain that just disturbs the soil and washes everything down the slope, I don't want a whole army of slugs and snails and other little critters just moving in and eating everything before I've even had a chance to get up there. Now, in 2024, the UK had a pretty horrific slug problem. And that was for a number of reasons, not least it was warm and damp all summer, and we also had quite a warm winter, 23-24. So a lot of stuff didn't get killed, snail eggs and so forth. And then we had this really warm, damp, miserable, awful, depressing summer, which the slugs just absolutely loved. And we're now banned from using certain slug or most slug killers that, the what do you call it, those little granules that you sprinkle out, and quite rightly too, because they're horrible and all sorts of other creatures would eat them. And I hated to see them used. They're absolutely toxic and just awful and disgusting, and why anyone would put them on the ground, I can't imagine. Anyway, they're banned in the UK now, so we did have a bit of a slug snail problem last year in the country as a whole. Now, I didn't have a problem up at the hens, and I think it's either because the chickens have just eaten everything, although they don't run in the trial beds area, so they can't have done. But I do think I've got away with some predators not really realizing that I'm there. And slugs aren't stupid. They'll go where there is a guaranteed source of food. So if if one keeps putting things out in one's garden, it's a very posh way of saying if you keep putting stuff in your own garden that's good for them to eat, then they're going to set up residence. But there's been nothing really for them to eat in that kind of way in the field. So I've got a lot of the leopard slugs up there, which aren't eating fresh green growth. They like to eat old stuff, decayed stuff, and they eat other slugs as well. And I leave them alone. They just buzz around doing their thing. But I don't have, I certainly didn't last year, any of the little slugs, the tiny ones that just come out and rampage through everything. But, never say never. They may travel. They may find me somehow. They may just parachute in. I don't know. So the risk is that once you get your seeds to germinate through all of the obstacles, you've then got these little tiny seedlings, which something could just come along and eat, and also including the pigeons. So that is a very, very long-winded way of trying to explain why I don't direct sow. And so far, there haven't been any examples where I've had the luxury of time or money or space in order to give direct sowing a go. And perhaps if I was growing on 5 acres or something, and I had masses and masses of cultivatable space, and I could afford to have a certain percentage of losses, then I might be tempted to give it a go if I could manage the environmental conditions and the pests. But if you know that you're only growing, say, 50 zinnia plants, I'm not sure I even had 50 last year, you can't afford to lose 50% of your stock to something coming along to eat them. It's just not worth the risk. So that is the answer to that. Second question, am I lonely doing this by myself? This is also a very good question. And the answer is no. I love being by myself. I love having company. But I do spend most of my time on the plot by myself. But I don't feel like I'm by myself because I've got the hens. Roland the cockerel, who's separated from the hens at the moment because he's squashing everybody, he's hanging out with me wherever I'm working, and he can come into the veg patch the veg patch and the flower garden because he's still a youngster and he doesn't really know what's what yet. So he doesn't dig anything up or scratch anything or try and eat anything. He's very well behaved. Whereas the older girls, they know the deal. They know what's what. They know what's good to eat. And if one of them got in, there would just be complete devastation. But Roland, he's a good boy. So he comes in with me, and obviously the ducks are there and my dog's there. So I don't feel lonely. And there's always some birds flying over, and there's bees up there in the summer. It's gorgeous, dragonflies, and sometimes you see a deer walking through the field as well. So no, I don't ever get lonely. I'm too busy to be lonely, and there's too much going on. And I'm quite used to being by myself. So nope. Right, next question. Why am I not keen on selling direct? Oh yeah, so I have talked about this in the past in a previous episode. And one of the things that people do is grow their own cut flowers, and then they do bouquets. They put bouquets together and they do flowers in a bucket by their gate or their front door. And I am just no good at arranging flowers. It's as simple as that. I have done some training with a florist. Technically, I can do a hand tie bouquet. And I put stuff together for myself and for clients, but in a very haphazard, very natural, not a very professional way at all. It's really, really basic. And I'm no good with colours and matching, and I try and make everything far too big. Like, I just love enormous displays. Huge. And that's just not practical. I mean, I couldn't even get anything like that through my front door. And I've done some online training as well, and lots of reading and lots of research. I've got masses of books, and I keep trying, and I'm just basically no good at it. So I'm just not going to be able to do it. And I think, well, play to your strengths, Lydia. Do what you're actually good at, which is growing things, and just leave the arranging to somebody else, because there are so many super, super talented people out there. I just think, I can't even do a good job. I'm not even going to try and compete. And I think if you're selling to a customer, they want something that they can just take home, that's wrapped up in paper, that looks stunning, that they can just open it up, plop it in a vase, and they're good to go, or they'll give it to somebody. And I feel that I would be letting my flowers down if I tried to do that. Plus, I haven't got any passing trade where I am. So if I did want to go down making up bouquets, I would need an outlet for it, like a farm shop or somewhere like that. And I know my closest one already gets their flowers from somewhere else. So it's just, it's not a goer. Now, the fourth and final question is one that I've been thinking about myself this week, and I don't have the answer to, but I'm going to put it out there. So my question to myself is, what's the most profitable flower to grow? Now, I'm going to take a punt and say I think it's going to be a dahlia, because I happen to know that they don't travel well, so lots of them don't get imported, especially the really fantastic stuff, the Café au Laits and the Paul Emery. So I am guessing that it could be something like a dahlia, because there just isn't going to be a massive volume of them over here. I know that there are cut flower growers in the UK that do dahlias, but they're not going to be on the same volume, for example, as people who import roses from overseas, where there probably millions of them come in every year. And also, I think because dahlias are quite unique and quite incredible, and they're just, for me, they're like another level of flower, I think it's going to be a dahlia. But might also be a hydrangeas. And I think the fantastic roses, the really, really, really high-end roses as well, could be most profitable. Because actually, this is a funny question in a way. Most profitable. So most profitable means you literally make the most profit on it. So not the most expensive stem, because it could be the most expensive stem to produce, and therefore your profit's actually really low. So when I'm thinking about the most profitable flower, it needs to be something that sells for as much money as possible, that costs dust basically to get going. So it could be something as simple as maybe, I don't know, something like snapdragons, which you get about 5 million seeds in a packet, and you open them up and think, oh my God, I'm old, I can't even see the seeds anymore. And it could be those, because you get so many in a packet, so the cost per seed is a fraction of like a penny, and you're going to sell them for, well, at least 10, 20, 50 times the cost that you've paid for them. Now, pricing is going to be something that we're going to have to talk about in a future one, because I have not cracked this at all. And I'm going to talk about what I did in 2024, which was absolutely not professional at all. And it's something that I'm going to have to figure out this year, because I do not know what I'm doing, and I do not have a clue how to price anything. And it is not always easy to work out what things should be priced at. But we will talk about that in a future episode when I've had a bit more of a sensible thought about it. But and also we can revisit whether I was right in thinking it's actually a dahlia, or whether it could be something much simpler, where you just get loads and loads of seeds in the packet. So we'll come back to that. Okay, it is now Thursday evening. I'm going to upload this podcast. Excuse me. I hope you enjoy it. And I also wish you all the very best for a lovely weekend. We are actually due some rain this weekend, which is very exciting, because I realised that I have been just giving the ducks as much water as they possibly want. And my other half said to me on the weekend, you do realise you've only got 400 litres left? And I thought, oh my God, I haven't even been looking at the measurement thing on the side of the Bowser, so I didn't even know. I just keep thinking, oh, it's winter, we've got loads of water, it'll go on forever. And then, of course, we've had a really hot week, haven't had any rain for ages. So I'm actually quite excited about the rain this weekend. And when you get into storing your own water, you will also get excited about when it rains. So I will be back next week. Oh yes, that reminds me before I go. So I was reading through some old notes about how to do a podcast and all these things you're supposed to do. And one of the key things was you have to have a call to action in every single episode. I thought, oh my goodness, I haven't been having a call to action. I'm just hoping that you enjoy listening to the podcast and it gives you a little bit of peace and calm in your day, and you come on this journey with me, and it's my pleasure to be here. So, well, that's the call to action, really. Just, come back and listen next week.